Hello, this is Josh Hunter, and I'm here on Earth as usual, and I got a jutsu for you tonight. This is this jutsu is called Straight No Chaser No Jutsu. And this is when you want to. This is mainly when you want to know yourself. It's not necessarily something. It's not an active jutsu. It's, I guess you'd say, it's more passive. It doesn't. Damn it! All right, that pissed me off. Okay. Because as you know, my last name is Hunter, and so sometimes like I have this kind of it's not like a fear, but it's like I don't know. I get the sense that everything that I do is not everything that I do, but a lot of things that I do is somehow associated with hunting. And sometimes I think people suspect me of being like a stalker, but that's literally my name. My name is Hunter. So sometimes it just seems like I'm So anyway, when you want to know, there are two ways to use this, and I guess I cannot tell you how to use either way. The first way is the passive, where you simply want to know within yourself: are you a stalker, that type of thing? Because sometimes, because you got to ask yourself why. Why do people stalk? Now I'm not talking about when you just observe someone or something or whatever. I mean, I'm talking about people who only when it starts to become unhealthy is what I'm referring to. Now we have very different definitions of healthy. What is healthy? Well, I suppose when you forget your own identity, when you don't. When you, as you know, I am a person who prefers to. I'm a person who prefers to be myself. I prefer my own individual identity. I am not a part of this whole thing where we're all about groups and that type of thing. I'll if I have to stand by myself, then so be it. I mean, hey, that's the way the cookie crumbles. But when you, because as you know, I've spent a lot of time in Hollywood, so I've become very familiar with what an actual stalker is. Like when the fame blinds them, and they are no longer able to determine reality from what is only occurring in their own minds. And since I have such an active imagination, I do my utmost to always make sure, is this reality or is this something that's just occurring in my mind? And these are important questions that you need to ask, because sometimes if you spend enough time, imagining things, you forget that there is a main or standard reality, which I would consider a part of good health. So this first way, the passive, straight, no chaser, no jutsu, is when you want to determine if you are the type of person who is, I guess, following someone to such a degree as it would become a detriment to your personal health. So when you want to examine yourself and know within yourself if you are a stalker, you have to ask yourself why. Why am I following this person? Why am I following that person? What's the reason? I have not studied this. When I say study, I mean I have not looked up the official definitions, the clinical definitions. I only have my own observations. So to me, generally speaking, a stalker, like someone who is like just following one person or a group of people with such seriousness as to forget themselves, I would call that the person probably perceives himself as having a void, an emptiness within that they're trying to fill desperately. Maybe not desperately, but and they kind of latch on to someone because maybe they feel they need guidance, or maybe they feel that this emptiness or this hole will be rectified, resolved, so that so they can feel fulfilled. A lot of people these days, and perhaps previous to these days, want to feel fulfilled. And that's not always an easy thing to do, because if I'm going to be a little honest, I mean no disrespect, okay? No, I don't point even saying it, because it's disrespect. Okay, all right. So, for example, one time I was at Sycamore, Street Sycamore in Hollywood. This guy came up to me, and he's like, I'm sitting there, he comes up to me, he's like, hey, I used to be in the band Crazy Town. My ex-wife is Shawnee Smith. And, you know, I don't remember the band. I mean, I remember the band, but I don't remember a lot about it. You know, that's that song, Come My Lady, Come My Pretty Lady Butterfly, Sugar, or something. I think that was, I don't remember the song. But, I know Shawnee Smith, she was in that show Becker. I love that show Becker. Great show. You know, it's kind of why sometimes, anyway. So I like to give people the benefit of the doubt. Like, maybe he was like, you know, he was telling me he used to hang out with Scott Kahn and all this. And so I'm thinking, all right, maybe this guy is, you know, he's just down on his luck or whatever. But he was very, I don't know, he might have been like some type of like an undercover operator or something. But he seemed very convinced of this reality, and sometimes you'll read about that, you know, in the news. For example, recently I read in the news that there's this guy, he stalked Miley Cyrus, and he said his purpose in life was to like to provide her with babies, to be the father of her children or something. And these are things, they start off very small, almost insignificant. No one just straight out the gate is like, I'm Shawnee Smith's ex-husband and I was in Crazy Town. Nobody starts out like that, okay? It's a slight thing. It's like one day, you know, maybe you have a bad day, and then you have a bad day, and then, you know, you perhaps you might not be thinking so much, and you just, man, wouldn't it be great if I was like, you know, more important? Wouldn't it be great if people liked me? You know, wouldn't it be great if I could feel better about being myself? You know, if I was attached to somebody important, well, that would make me important, wouldn't it? And then you feel better about yourself, and you know, it's and then that's how it starts. And then you're by yourself, and you're in your own world, and you start thinking, and you know, you. I remember the first time I got a glimpse of this, of what this feels like. Anyway. They made a show of From Dusk Till Dawn about vampires, and I remember one of the first or second episodes. This guy, From Dusk Till Dawn was a movie about vampires, and they made a show about it. And there were these two brothers, and one of the brothers, he couldn't, like, he's like in the convenience store, and he's looking at this girl, and he's like imagining that she's like, you know, like being like all up on him, and like, oh yeah, like she really wants me, but like then it cuts to reality, and she's like not even paying attention to him. And I had no idea, that's sometimes what it's like. You know, you see what you want to see. So it's important to remain sober, to remain sober during these times, and all times. I mean, if it's, you know, if you're like an actor or something, sometimes you got to go with it. You know, you must let the creative juices flow. But just always make sure you have an anchor. You know, anyway. So, I've seen this happen quite a bit. And sometimes people will come up to me and they're very convinced that they are, you know, that they're like a part of like this, you know, celebrity world or something. And it's, I don't know. It's just sometimes you don't want to see yourself. You don't want to see what you are. Some people are not willing to look at how little they've accomplished, or how how much they have not worked on themselves and how out of shape they are. I have had to confront this many times. Of course, I have been working constantly, so that's the difference. I mean, I'm always trying to stay in reality. Like, I love reality. I cherish reality. I cherish safety. I cherish, privacy, civilized activity, morals, ethics. I love these things. I love them completely and totally. And so when I do my best, my utmost to make sure that they are. This fucking guy. All right. Okay. So I do my best, but I'm not saying that as, oh, look at me, look what the fuck I've done. Oh, haha. Why can't you be as good as me? No, I'm telling you my feeling about it, so that perhaps you can get a sense. Because some people, they don't, they want to stay in their dream world. They don't want to know. They don't want to know that, they're not a part of this. They don't want to know that they're not famous, or that perhaps they have, voids which are unfulfilled. And when you sometimes see how much you have to do in order to, feel that without imagining something entirely, it's difficult. Mediocrity, and especially your own mediocrity, is sometimes very difficult to face. And I know there's only so much that any other person could do for you. So that's the passive version of straight, no chaser, no jutsu. The more active version, I would not recommend, because the moment you start using this, it will be pointed back at you, and if you're not prepared for it. In fact, you know what? I'm not even gonna say it. I think it's better if you just work on yourself and don't worry about, other things and so on and so forth. Okay, I gotta calm down. So anyway, I have brought this up because sometimes I have felt somewhat, not necessarily insecure, but sometimes I do become very focused. As you know, I'm an investigative type person, and have been so since the year 1995. And so sometimes my investigations take me into I don't know, they take me somewhere. And so I guess I don't want to seem like my name is Hunter, like I said, that, and then sometimes, that's in my blood. Like I cannot not be associated with hunting. Some people, that's like, it's like I'm kind of like a Pokemon. It's like sometimes I can't help but say my name, because that's me, and I say my name so often. Yeah, I might actually be a Pokemon. Still in the wild, not. Oh, fucking shit. All right, sorry. I'm just a little. I can't. Okay. Yeah. So that's the jutsu, and it's a personal jutsu. It's not meant to. It's so you can. It's a self-discovery. Well, I wouldn't call it self-discovery, but it's something for your personal use if you want to, not be. If you if you want to not be like a person, if you don't want to be, if you know that you're like the stalking type where you could become like unhealthily obsessed with some person or some group of people, then this would be a step towards not being that, and to realizing that you yourself, are fully capable of something. So yeah, I hope this has been, or I would like to believe that this has been helpful, and have a good one.